All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in today. Today I am doing Guitar Teacher Reacts to Guitar Solos. We're playing over a G7 blues, G blues, with a classic 1, 4, and 5. And my great friend and student, Mr. Trey, is here, and he's playing for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, awesome. Okay, cool. It's awesome. So, first of all, man, I wanted to say thank you so much for being here and being willing to do this because uh, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to put yourself out there,
Yeah.
and you might be in your studio and you might be pretty comfortable there, but when you put that record button on and you press it,
Yeah.
there's no doubt that the anxiety rises a little bit, and this is going to go on the internet,
Yeah.
so it's a big deal to me, and I really appreciate you stepping out and doing this.
Yeah. Anytime.
um,
This is I'm always up for these type of challenges and love the idea. So yeah, for sure.
that's awesome, yeah. So I do want to preface, this is one of my backing tracks, and I shared it with Trey yesterday, and so he checked it out a little bit. And yeah, so it's a classic 12 bar blues and in the key of G. And then essentially we have a quick little turnaround there at the end. So for those of you who don't know the 12 bar G, we got one bar of G7, a bar of C7, two bars of G7, two bars of C7, two bars of G7. Then we have that turnaround D7 to G7, or sorry, D7 coming down to C7, and then a quick little bit at the end there, G for 2 beats, C for 2 beats, G, walk to the D. And we got this funky kind of little groove going on in the background that makes us kind of play in a certain way, right? It's like we got these kind of swung 16th notes, and it sounds really cool. So I thought that that was a great solo, and I definitely have some feedback for you, but like one thing I wanted to mention was I think like sound wise, you're like super dialed in for the track. It's like you kind of are approaching it from a bit of a rock blues kind of
Mhm.
approach, which I think is pretty cool. Could you tell me a little bit about the setup that you're playing,
Yeah, absolutely.
guitar wise, and just your rig
Yeah.
and stuff?
So I've got my Yamaha SA 2200, kind of like a 335, 375 style guitar. Um, I'm running it uh, right into my amp via a Greer Lightspeed,
Ooh,
overdrive, as well as
nice
going
overdrive.
through
Yeah.
TC Electronic Hall of Fame reverb. I'm running that into a Cerebella head which, particularly like kind of really gives you that kind of Fender Deluxe sound, but kind of on steroids. I do have the boost switch turned on to kind of give me some of that blues rock, like gain, so which is really good
Yeah.
for something like this. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent, man. I think that the tone that you dialed in is really perfect. Um, so yeah, a bit of feedback on your playing, and then I might do kind of like a little live coaching as we go. So one of the things that I really enjoyed was that you kind of like you took a little bit of time in between your lines. You know, a lot of what guitar players do a lot of times is the track comes on, or you step into the jam session, or you step in and like instantly like just note verbose amounts of notes, just like so many, right? And it's easy, especially when you're kind of like heightened a little bit and feeling like, oh, I gotta play, I gotta perform, I gotta show what I got, to kind of accidentally maybe overplay. And I think you did a good job of like toning that back. I loved how you would play a line, and then you would do the handoff technique that we've talked about, in the past, and it's just like what it does for me as a listener is it's like, oh cool, I have space to just listen and process like what was that thing that Trey just played, and how do I feel about it? Oh, that's pretty cool, and it's just versus like note after note after note, line after line after line. It's just like this it's too much information to feed to the audience, right? So I thought you did like a really great job. Um, so in regards to playing on a 12 bar blues like this, like what is your approach like kind of scale wise and stuff? What do you like to go for?
I mean, so obviously, yeah, we spend a lot of time with some minor pentatonic. I mean, it works so well with this. When I can, I'm trying to target certain notes, like especially for that turnaround. Try and really hit that D and C note as much as I can. But yeah, sometimes I'll kind of even find my way into some just throwing in some major note just over the one
That's
chord,
cool.
which is just kind of separate it from the rest a little bit, which I've found gives it a little more flavor.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting, like the the song itself has three different dominant chords, which are not in the same key at all. But the cool thing about the blues is that's the sound of it, and that's what was developed, Black American music, like just this amazing sound. And like historically, the start and where most improvisers start is just starting with that minor pentatonic.
Yeah.
And obviously, oops, I'm gonna turn around. Obviously, it sounds really great. And I feel like we can get away playing tons of really great ideas just using that.
Yeah.
However, there comes a time where we want to expand the kind of color choices that we can use, right? And so, like you were talking about, and what we've talked about before that I think is really cool, is you can kind of like play the minor pentatonic on that G7 chord, but when you get to the G string, like kind of surround the B note. So you play like 5, 3, 4. And what that does is it kind of builds this like we're kind of minory, we're bluesy, but then we're throwing in this little bit of like, I know what the chord is. Because that B note is inside of that
Yeah.
G7 chord, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So, would you mind turning the track on? And I know you have to hit space bar, so you could even wait until it comes back around if you want. But play a little bit more with that idea where you're kind of surrounding that major third.
Yeah, for sure.
And Trey is using Ableton, which I think is just the absolute best practice tool. When it works properly, which is most of the time. talk about that right there.
Yeah.
So what you might have noticed was that when you were going for that, you went for a B note,
Yeah.
but we were actually still on the 4 chord, right?
Yes.
And
Doesn't work.
that's like, it doesn't work there. Yeah, it's a no note, right? Which is okay, man. You know, sometimes in this realm of guitar, I see kind of two camps. I see the camp of, okay, I'm just gonna go for it and not think about anything.
Hmm.
And then there's the camp of like, I'm overthinking everything.
Yeah.
And the reality is, I think the best place to live is like right in between. So
Exactly.
what you did was you were kind of thinking about this concept that you wanted to apply, and you ate it. You didn't play it well, but that's okay. The fact that you did that is the next time it comes around, you're gonna be like, oh, I gotta watch out for that
Yeah.
one, right? So it's that kind of like, it's
Mm-hmm.
that nice blend of kind of mixing like, okay, I want to be free enough to try things, but I want to be a bit calculated, especially like in the practice room, you know?
Oh yeah. And to me, it kind of gives you that sound kind of in between, like, oh, I'm just gonna rip minor pentatonic over this whole thing, and then the other side of it just being like, okay, I'm gonna like carefully craft all my notes, and
Yeah.
it can get a little stale too. So yeah.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally. Um, okay, so I want you to try and nail that again, but I want you to keep playing and like even if you play less, you know, say you're just going something like just really like play less, but really try and target that major third on that G chord.
Oh yeah, that turnaround,
Yeah, yeah, cool. No, but that was better. I think for me what happened there that was cool was just like again, when we're trying new things, a lot of times we surround it with like too many other things.
yeah.
Meaning specifically just like overplaying and playing too many notes because we start to get in our head. But that time you did it really nicely where it was just like, okay, cool. I'm just going to target the major third. And you played it in a couple really cool places that I thought worked great. Cool. So, how about let's do a whole full solo again.
Okay.
And I'll kind of critique you on a couple other things.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. Yeah, man. All right, awesome. So I want to mention a few things that I really loved what you did. Um, so you're one of my students calls it curling the flat three.
Okay.
Is
Yeah.
when you take that B flat in this key, right? And you're just kind of raising it. It's funny because you're not always raising it that half step. It's really like he calls it curled, which I think
Okay. Yeah, that's really
is
well
very
worded.
true.
Yeah.
And it sounds so good. So I thought that was great. Also, like you know, I'm feeling like you're fairly fluid in your minor pentatonic,
Mhm.
and you're using a mix of boxes and kind of diagonal. Um, and like again, tone wise, it's really good. It's hitting the mark. One thing that I would love to hear a little bit more of,
Mhm.
and you're kind of doing it kind of like innately in the minor pentatonic, but I would love to
Mhm.
hear you really nail the turnaround a little bit more.
Okay.
And one way that I really enjoy doing that is kind of like walking into the roots of the
Hmm.
chords. This is pretty common, like where you might go C, C sharp, D, like, and then same idea but down a whole step, and then into the G as well. That's such a good little melodic fragment. Like, I have the turnaround. So like, so obviously I'm playing there. I was playing around the that quick one too.
Yeah.
G, C, G up to D. But really the point, the one that I really want you to nail is, and this kind of like, this brings me to a point that I kind of want to share.
Yeah.
So Trey and I have worked together quite a bit, and one of the cool things about Trey is that he's really adept with technology. So he just knows how to use stuff, and so we both use Ableton a lot, and I believe that Ableton is just the absolute best practice tool for the guitar. And so these tracks, like I can share with Trey, I can kind of build them, and I could send him individual parts. Like what we've actually been working on more recently is a bit more straight ahead jazz. This was kind of like, hey Trey, what do you want to play
Hmm.
on, live on the internet,
Yeah.
so to speak, and we were like, okay, let's do a blues. But really, you've been doing a lot of jazz, and just like the blues or just like any style, really, if you can take these tracks and kind of isolate smaller chunks and really like kind of really target and work on smaller areas of the song, which like Ableton makes it
Mhm.
so easy, then all of a sudden you can really strengthen that, rather than what happens a lot of times is like, Trey, I want you to improve your skills at the turnaround.
Yeah.
And then you have to wait 9 bars every time, or really 8 bars, eight
Yeah.
measures every time to work on it, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, oh man. So like if you're on YouTube doing backing tracks, which I think is great and everything, you literally only get to work on that every 8 bars,
Hmm.
while really we all need to target things way more specifically than that.
Yeah. I just like take a mouse and just drag it, like, okay, highlight that section and then boom, and then
Oh, it's
right
amazing.
over just the turnaround. So,
Yeah, totally. And then also, the other cool thing is like, oh, you're tired of playing it in G, let's do it in A,
yeah.
and you just move the key. Or you're tired of playing it fast and you want to drop it by maybe up to 15 or 20 beats per minute, or speed it up 60 beats per minute.
Yeah.
Uh, it's so cool. It's such a great tool. So that being said, will you turn on that loop of the turnaround?
Yeah,
And can
absolutely.
we kind of work on that and try and target those spots a little bit? And it's always cool, in the practice room, to take a moment and just say, okay, where am I? And like Trey and I have talked about this thing called the Song of the Root Motions, which I learned from my great mentor Brian Seeger. And basically, what it is it's like, say you're just trying to learn something that's moving quite quickly like that. What you do is you literally just take the root notes, D down to C, and then this one goes G, C, G up to D. And so by playing that, and I highly recommend singing it also, you start to dial yourself in a little bit. Will you play those root notes with it? You don't have to sing on
Absolutely.
the old YouTubes if you don't want to.
G, C, C, G, C, G, C, D. I
Yeah.
said C, D, G, but I meant C, C sharp
Yeah.
D.
Yeah, and that's cool. And obviously, like, this is a great skill and technique to do to vocalize and play it. But if you weren't vocalizing it, it would be way easier to do, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then so I like to layer on the complexity, because
Mhm.
like maybe you first start out with just, and then once you're feeling good playing through that a couple times, then you might actually start singing the notes.
Yeah.
Cool. So just since we're live on the internet, we'll skip a bit of that, but I just want to highlight that is such a great technique, singing the song of the root motions, for
Yeah.
getting you really dialed in, right? And we do it all the time, and
Oh,
all.
absolutely.
Cool. Okay, let's talk a little bit because I think there are a couple different approaches you can do here. It's important to realize that like there is nothing wrong with just jamming here in kind of an aggressive, kind of minor pentatonic kind of way. So what I mean by that is like so I just didn't even think about the turnaround at all. I'm just playing the blues. I mean, using my ear at the end, I do want to go into the D chord,
Yeah.
but in general, it's like I'm trying to just really lay into minor pentatonic. And that's like totally safe because the G minor pentatonic scale works over every chord perfectly. There are no problems, right? And so I think that's totally cool. So what I would like you to do for a moment before we get into like really targeting the turnaround in some kind of like playing the changes type of way, just play some bluesy stuff on it for a second.
Okay.
Cool. That totally works, right?
Hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with that. All right. Now let's say we wanted to dig in uh, a little bit more into the turnaround. I do want to take a moment just to mention one thing. Trey and I are meeting at 9 a.m.
Sorry about
Eastern
that.
Standard Time.
Yeah.
So I want you to know that there are no excuses for playing guitar having to be late at night. One thing that I learned over the years is I would just, I've been trying to make a living at music, and so I would book 8 a.m. lessons, and you
Yeah.
wake up and you better show up and sound good,
Yeah.
Somebody's paying you money for your time, and you're trying to like help them and be a good example. So I think that that's just one little aside that I wanted to make is like, man, make music all day.
Yeah,
Make music
exactly.
right when you get up. No excuses.
Mhm.
Bring it. Okay, so let's talk about one more thing, and that is I want to just talk about um, on this turnaround if you wanted to play over the changes a
Mhm.
bit more. I'm just going to kind of do kind of like overall things that you might approach, right? So what we talked about for the most part so far is playing a lot of minor pentatonic across the entire tune.
Mhm.
Sounds great, right? One thing that people are inclined to do on the turnaround,
Mhm.
because it's like a minor pentatonic world, is they think that when they're playing the changes, we got a D7, C7, back to G, right? Because we like the minor pentatonic so much, a lot of us think, oh, well, let's play D minor pentatonic down to C minor pentatonic, back to G minor pentatonic. Now, here's the thing about that. This is just a very important thing that I want to articulate to people, everybody out there. The C minor pentatonic scale sounds terrible on the 4 chord. It is just a bad, bad move. Now, why is that? The reason is that note should be E, right? So when you're playing minor pentatonic, which works on the other chords, fine. But when you're playing it on there, you end up with this note. Oh my gosh, like when I hear that note and my ears tuned into it's incredibly dissonant, right? And the reason is because it's the flatted sixth note of the key, right? So it's just this note that is a very harsh kind of sound. So do not play C minor pentatonic on that C7 chord. That's a no-no. It'd be way better to just play G minor pentatonic and not even try and play the changes.
Yeah.
But there's this super cool thing that I discovered that kind of can help you get around that. And I might even post a little diagram as I talk about this so that people can see it. But so what you can do is on the D chord, like D minor pentatonic is okay, except you're not really playing all the choice notes. So what I realized is I can take the D minor pentatonic scale, and instead of playing that flat 3, if I just push that up a half step from the 13th to 14th fret, I get this.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically the D7 arpeggio. And then when you get to the G string, you would also turn that F into an F sharp, so it'd be like this. So it's you're playing a D minor pentatonic, but you're making the third into a major third. Obviously, you don't think about this on the gig, right? This is in the practice room. This is like working out stuff in the practice room. You end up with this almost kind of, it's basically mostly just arpeggio notes. But then there's like this one kind of fourth that is there that's on the 12th fret of the G. So, and then the cool thing is it's going to go beautifully down to the C chord, right? Because it's a C dominant also. And so you play the same thing just down a whole step. Yeah, cool. Will you try those too? Sorry. Yeah. And then if you wanted to, you could kind of end that with some G minor pentatonic-y blues scale kind of stuff, or you could even do it down on the G chord as well. Cool?
Yeah.
All right, so do you want to try that? Like, and I would say, as you do it, let me play it first.
Okay.
So I tried to get back up for the last D chord, which
Yeah.
is fine. It's a little happy sounding, but all good. So as you try this, just feel like you could start off with just a portion of it, right? Don't feel like you got to play the entire thing. You could play even that, or just... Cool?
Yeah.
Let's give that a go. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So
So.
the second time it was much, much better, right?
Yeah.
And don't feel like again, don't feel like you got to play all the notes. The second time it was like you stopped trying to play so many notes. But even still,
Yeah.
I would love to hear like something like maybe something like that. But definitely like G minor pentatonic over those quick chords.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear it one more time. Yeah, okay. Again.
You know, trying to.
Yeah, that's cool. Can we do it one more time? I like that. I mean, that might be the peak of your solo, right?
Yeah, like almost more slide-like. So.
That's fun. Yeah, one more time.
Okay. I don't like that as much, but
that's okay. Cool, man. Okay, great. Yeah. So I think that this is my experience also, where when I'm working on little nuggets like this and trying something so intentionally, that then when I come back to the normal stuff that I might normally play, it's hard for me to nail it at first.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend to both you and to the people out there watching this, like maybe you're just really trying to hit the D and the C and then stop playing. You know, like there's nothing wrong with in the practice room going. Stop. Let the music come
Okay.
around, and here it goes. Even something like that. There, I did play a G minor pentatonic lick, but what I noticed was happening was you were thinking about the D7 and the C7 so much
Yeah.
that when it came back to just playing your G minor stuff at the end there, it was like, wait, where am I?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's okay. Like all of this is stepping stone stuff, right?
Mhm.
It's material that's supposed to
Yeah.
get you to that next place.
Hmm.
Cool, man. Hey, you're my first guitar coach reacts victim.
Awesome.
Dude, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a good time. So,
Yeah, awesome, man. Cool. All right, and thanks everybody for watching this. Appreciate you watching this. This is a new series that I'm doing. There are going to be some more of these, some live coaching and some just critiquing videos, and something really fun. I'm actually going to put it out there to my guitar community and maybe do some contests to win free coaching. So anyway, thanks for watching this video, and make sure to watch this video next.